Hey, it's Mike with my daily video blog, and I stumbled upon this great place, Sin City Pickers, Antiques and Collectibles Mall, right on the corner of Maine and Wyoming the other day. And if you know anything about me at all, you know I love antiques, so it's a great place for me to check out. And inside, I discovered something pretty cool. Oh, hello, John. That's John Lennon. But coming up the stairs a little further is where we get to our really cool museum, because you see, this is about a fusion between the past, renewable energy, and what is, in some cases, now. It's called steampunk. And look who's here to tell me all about it. My man, Phineas. Phineas, what's happening, my man?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steampunk Imaginarium. I'm Dr. Phineas.
Hey, what is steampunk?
Well, I tell you, sir, steampunk is a literary genre. It pretty much came out of Disney movies like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
The goggles, man. I love the goggles.
Yes, we all have goggles. We are inventors. We are inventing a better future for the planet Earth, something that's recognizable on those timeless virtues that came from the Victorian period.
Yeah, speaking about Victorians, see, look at this.
Isn't she beautiful? All of that is made by hand.
And speaking of attire, this may be not necessarily Victorian, but I love the rounded lapels on this tuxedo. And here at the Steampunk Museum, man, you got all sorts of clothes here that are of different ages. Sorry about the light there, but we're going low key here, and we got scarves and anything else. This steampunk thing, Phineas, is really interesting in all the different styles and flavors that you roll into one sort of a fusion. I do love a bustier. I love those. But I like the different styles that you kind of roll into one here.
Well, and yes, and you know, the Victorian period was like that. It was a fusion because they had an empire. And that empire extended all the way to India. You know, she was Empress of India, was Queen Victoria. So suddenly they started borrowing this and borrowing that and changing their garb this way. There were Victorians who wore fezzes because they owned a lot of land.
I do love a fez.
So it was very interesting how eclectic the garb changed during that time period. And someone said, well, why do your steampunk girls look so sexy? They've got their corsets on the outside, and they kind of hike their skirts up where you see their pantaloons a little bit. That's because during that period, women started working in mines. So they actually hiked their skirts up, and they wore their corsets on the outside so that they could actually crawl through a mine. So
you got the pants hiked up there too, I see.
That's true. Well, this is my summer garb for Las Vegas.
Right.
So I've got to be a Victorian, but
right. Well, let me ask you though. Let me ask you something. The counter's what we're talking about.
Yes.
You've got new stuff here. I mean, this is clearly. I mean, this is not Victorian here. I mean,
right.
This is made in this age, and same with the
part.
Okay.
That's the punk part.
Okay.
This is the steam part. That's the punk part.
Gotcha.
And the punk part is this modern fusion of these Victorian ideas about the future, but in current times and in futuristic times. So really big with us is like having a time machine. We actually believe as steampunks we can go into any time like a holodeck and play in those time periods and borrow things from the future, kind of like in H.G. Wells's movie.
Yeah, right on.
The Time Machine.
Yeah.
So remember, he would go to the future and he would see all the styles change. You know,
Oh,
in
yeah,
a dress shop
absolutely.
across the street. And he would come back and he'd say, oh, wow, you're wearing your dress long. Well, soon it's going to be over your knee. So that's the way steampunks are. We like to go to every single period that we can, but we personally favor the elegance of Victorian Edwardian clothes where men were gentlemen and women were ladies. That's very important to us.
Now we got some other stuff we got to look at, and that's going to be right after this. Take me to your leader. Take me to your leader. Well, we've shown you the clothes of steampunk and some of the extra items of clothing, accoutrements, what have you. Now we're in a different room, and Phineas, we're really kind of looking outside of the fan to keep the room cool because it's hot out. We're looking at some cool kind of sort of semi-inventions because they don't really do necessarily anything that's otherworldly, but they certainly look like they do.
Actually, sir, these are very important inventions. Now, here is something based upon the Tesla coil, and I call this my brain transference machine. So if you need to transfer your brain,
I like that.
With
That's
another
like that's like,
person.
remember that in Back to the Future? But Doc, you know, Doc. You remember that? Yeah, great stuff there.
I attempted to use this on myself. I didn't realize I had the other side connected to a banana slug.
Right on, right
so
on.
I have not been the same since.
That's like most of society had that happen to them, whether through osmosis or not.
But once again, we're taking things that would be discarded, like in dumps. And steampunks look at this like, wow, we could really make something cool that we could play with.
Yeah.
And it encourages young people to think outside the box. This
That is
particular
so cool.
sculpture is by Skip Wagner, and it was made for Burning Man. And
Right.
we love the Burning Man people, and
Sure.
we
Look at all
try
those
to
inventions.
welcome a lot of their artwork here because it's so brilliant. And so,
Tell me about this one, because you talked about this before. I didn't mean to cut you off, Phineas.
No,
but,
not at all.
But you talked about this before. These are all discarded
These are just-
elements, and you mentioned
Yes.
that just a second ago. And then you make something out of it.
Well, we looked at this, what some ordinary person might say, that's just a trash can, and I said, no, that's the head on a robot.
Right.
So you start taking e-waste, you start taking things that you've thrown in the back of your garage, and you think, wow, I could really make this work. And we have fabulous glues now. They're glue that is almost like welding. And by the way, we wear goggles for a reason. So
Sure.
you see our goggles? We weld.
Yeah.
We're into metal and we're
Yeah,
into welding.
a lot of iron and stuff
So-
like that.
so
Absolutely. In fact, that's how I caught on to Steam Pump, is through American Pickers.
Oh, yes.
And every time, because I'm an addict to that show, every time
Oh,
I
I
go,
love
that
that show.
steampunk, man,
Yeah.
that stuff sells.
It's true.
Yeah.
It sells. This stuff, probably looks silly to people.
Uh-huh.
But like, for instance, here is a fabulous little robot. And this was made by a 78-year-old steampunk in San Francisco, Renee McNally. And she used e-waste, and it's a telescope.
How about that?
Who makes anything like that?
What is this thing here? This is actually just an antique. But I've seen these things. What is this? Like the squeeze
This-
something? What is this?
This is actually an old meat grinder
Oh,
from
a
the
meat
old
grinder.
days.
Okay, well, yeah.
And so what we're getting ready to, we're actually going to create a lamp out of this.
Oh, that's cool.
So we take a lot of stuff like this.
That's
and
a
then
lot of weight. Certainly it'd be a great base, because that's
It'd
like
be a-
cast iron.
a
right?
great base, and then you can see how we bring the thing out.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
And then with an appliance bulb, you just leave a plain bulb. Now this was probably at one time an apple peeler. We're now using it as a corset tightener.
Oh,
So you can see how important these things
Yeah, I gotta
are.
use that around my midsection. I love that. Well, this is all about, look right here, it even says it right here, steam, and of course those are out of Scrabble tiles.
That is correct.
I love that. I love Scrabble.
Isn't that
My
fun?
morning crossword.
And you'll see
And
a
Chitty
lot
Chitty
of,
Bang Bang.
You see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You see a lot of teacups, and the reason is we are a tea society, much like the Victorians.
And you have afternoon tea here, don't you?
We have afternoon tea at 3 o'clock.
Is that every day?
It's every Friday.
Every Friday,
And that's
right.
open to the public. You can come over to the Imaginarium here at 10 Wyoming and have tea with us.
Well, then here you are.
And some kind of wonderful discussion. I've had parents of my students, at UNLV say how wonderful what it is you've done for my young people, because
Yeah.
now they're wearing very smart looking clothing with a monocle and they drink tea.
Yeah.
They're not drinking on the streets, they're drinking tea. So
Well, it's all about history. And,
It is.
and in society today, I always loved history growing up.
oh yeah.
And in society, that's kind of lost. The kids don't seem to really like geography or history.
You're right.
To me, it's always been a fascinating subject, because you have to, if you don't use history as a teaching and learning tool, you're lost.
Well, and some students would say to me at UNLV, they said, but Dr. Phineas, I have no reference for history. It means nothing to me. So when they become steampunk, suddenly they're researching their clothes. They're involved and activated with history. So it becomes something very real for them. So I think that this has been really, as a teacher, a wonderful teaching device for me to become a steampunk and to kind of approach it with students and children at the Discovery Center. I teach them about history and geography and science. And because I'm Dr. Phineas, they listen to me. They stop texting.
Well, and you even have a medal
I do?
and monocles,
Yes, and this one's very...
along with the goggles.
I'm watching everybody.
Bully.
So put down those cell phones and stop texting and listen to your teacher.
Well, Dr. Phineas, it was absolutely a pleasure to meet you.
And you as well, sir. Absolutely a pleasure to meet you too. And to everybody out there, come visit the Imaginarium and imagine. If you can imagine it, we can make it.
Oh, that was phenomenal. Phenomenal.